Where are you based? We were just talking where people are from based. Mustaqim?
I'm from Botswana, Sheikh.
No, no, no. I know you from Multan, but where are you based now?
Oh no, I'm still based in Botswana. Botswana is in Africa, by the way.
Oh, Botswana. I know where Botswana is.
Yeah. Not a lot of British people do, so I'm grateful that you do.
Uh, the furthest I've been is Kenya and Uganda.
Oh, mashallah. That's still quite a distance from us, though.
I know, yeah. You're further south. But alhamdulillah. Okay. Are there any questions from last week before we begin? And if someone can remind me where we are we on Zakat al-Fitr or did we finish it?
We finished Zakat al-Fitr and we started a bit of Siyam. I think we
Okay.
stopped at 212 verse.
212.
Yep.
Okay. So if anybody's got questions, Bismillah. Otherwise, we'll make a start, inshallah. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi. So we finished 212, did we? Okay. So if you can read 213, just 213.
A lunar month is established by seeing the crescent moon or by completing 30 days from the previous month in total.
Okay. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi. Sidi Meyara, in his commentary, says that, we're informed that the month begins, meaning the month of Ramadan, is established by one of these two matters. Either, sighting the crescent or completing 30 days of Sha'ban. And this is also the position of Ibn al-Hajib and others. And what follows is Sidi Mayara quoting Ibn al-Hajib. Are people familiar with this Imam, Ibn al-Hajib? No? Okay. Imam Ibn al-Hajib held the same position within the madhab as Sidi Khalil does now. So he is known within the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. I don't know any commentaries on his work, but he's known. He's from a famous Usuli, and as an Usuli, he's one of the great masters of Usul al-Fiqh. And after that, he's one of the Mujtahid Imams within the madhab. And Sidi Khalil, before he authored his summary, his Mukhtasar, he wrote a commentary on the Jami' of Ibn al-Hajib. And Ibn al-Hajib's Jami' was a precursor to Sidi Khalil's Mukhtasar coming into being. But Sidi Khalil relied heavily on, the Mukhtasar of Ibn al-Hajib and the commentaries on it. Sidi Khalil's commentary is called Tawdih. It's in print, not complete. There's quite a few sections missing from it. But in the commentary on Sidi Khalil, in the Tawdih, you actually you can hear Sidi Khalil. While when you go through the Mukhtasar of Sidi Khalil, he's just a collator. He's collating, all the different Imams within the madhab and what they agree on. That's what, he presents forward as a summary, which is called, the Mukhtasar of Sidi Khalil. So Imam Hajib, I do not know, a madhab from, other than the Malikis, the other three madhabs all of them have commentated on his book on Usul al-Fiqh. He wrote a major work and then he summarized that work, and that summary became, the standard. The Hanafis, Shafis have written multiple commentaries on it. The Hanbalis have written, and Malikis have gone overboard writing commentaries on it. But he's, if people say Ibn Hajib has it, you got to. Ibn Hajib says this, or this is his opinion. You got to sit up and listen. That's the kind of person he is. So this is what he says. This is Sidi Khalid. Sidi Meyara quoting Imam Ibn Hajib. So he says the first is that the present has to be cited. Yeah, that's the first position. The second position is that the completion of 30 days of Sha'ban. This is the second. Now, as to someone seeing crescent himself, he says there's no problem. Because when someone cites it themselves, it's up to the judge to accept their testimony or not. But if they are 100% sure they saw the crescent, they're duty bound to follow their own citing. Yeah. So once the crescent is cited, how does the information reach us? It's either one of the two ways. One is where the citing is spread as information, not as that a group has seen the citing, but as information. And if this spreads to such a degree that so many people accept it, it reaches the point of certain knowledge. Now, if it doesn't reach that, then it reaches the point, a stage before certainty. It's called Dhannul Qareeb. Now, the citing will only be accepted from two male upright people. So for this citing, to spread, has to be cited by two men, two upright men. It is not established, the completion of the month or the citing is not established by one person, which is we do have a student of Imam Malik called Ibn al-Majishun, who accepts the testimony of one. For instance, the Shafi position is that they will accept the testimony of one. Now, Ibn Hajib says that if that information reaches, the one citing, if that reaches the head of state, and he accepts that testimony, and then spreads that, then that is as a singular report, like we accept singular hadith, Qabr al-Ahad. It's on that level. It will be spread as information, but not as, a citing. And it's, it becomes necessary to accept that, especially if, the head of state accepts the meaning. And it becomes an obligation upon, they themselves to act by it. If the judge accepts it, then it becomes an obligation to accept the report. But again, our madhab, as a madhab, doesn't accept singular reports of sightings. It has to be, what's it called? A group of people who cited. I'll come to in a minute what happens now. Before I end what Sidi Meyara is quoting from Sidi Imam Ibn Hajj, he says the sighting can only be accepted once, either because you cannot sight the crescent shara'an on the night of the 28th. It has to be on the night of the 29th. Yeah. So then if you see it, fine. If you don't, then you complete 30 days. And that's what Imam Malik radhiyallahu anh transmits from the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam in the Muwatta, that these are the words of the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, that the month is 29 days. Don't fast till you see the crescent, and don't break it until you see it, meaning the crescent. If it is cloudy, then count them, meaning complete 30. This is Qadi Iyad and others, when they comment on this hadith, they say that when the Prophet said count them, he means complete 30 days. Yeah. Okay, that's what Sidi Mayara has to say. What happens now? I can only comment on what happens in the UK. I can't say what happens abroad in other countries. We have two groups of people in the UK. We have people who will accept the global sighting, and there are others who will go by local sighting. Yeah. So global sighting is if it is sighted anywhere east of the UK, not west, east of the UK, and it meets the two witnesses, and whichever country it has been cited. If it is a Muslim country, then the scholarship of that country has accepted the sighting. That's the global sighting. The local sighting is in the UK, the same horizon as the UK, which is, by the way, the main horizon of the UK local also includes, because the timeline wise, Morocco falls in the same timeline. And so the people who go by local sightings in the UK, they will go by UK sightings. If they don't cite it, and there is no, possibility of it being cited in the UK, but if there's a possibility of it being cited in Morocco, they will go by the sighting of Morocco. There is a third addition to the local sightings, which is, the Hanafis. They will also accept the sighting of South Africa. You're going to ask me, bloody hell, that's, at the bottom of the hemisphere, but that's how Hanafi Fiqh is. They will accept the sightings of South Africa. There is, a third group, which is like, a baby at the moment, but it's actually growing really fast, the child is, which is, where the future is for me. There are a lot of groups of Muslims who have become aware of this, and they have started citing the crescent every month. Yeah. The thing that used to be that, adage was that the crescent can't be seen, it's too clouded, and actually, it's being proven wrong. Because, if the crescent is there, it can be seen. If, because, the Greenwich Observatory is helping Muslims who are interested. They actually tell you on what days and dates the crescent can be sighted with the naked eye. By the naked eye, they also include, telescopes. Yeah. So those are, the three that groups we have. So the local ones, which is really strange. No, not the local ones. The uh, global ones will only go by the citing of Saudi, which is really strange. So why only Saudi? I really don't know. We need to ask them. Um, I personally go with the Morocco. The reason why is in the 1900s, Imam Hajawi gave a fatwa um, from the Qaraween that the Muslims of England should follow the sightings of Morocco, not Egypt. Um, but it's an old fatwa. But the thing is, it with the deen, you're looking for certainty. You're not looking for, doubts. So when the information is coming from uh, information is coming and there's doubt surrounding it, I go by the principle that the Rasul والسلام, laid down was dama yuribuka ila ma la yuribuka, that when you're in doubt, go to where there is no doubt. In Morocco, every month um, there are more than 200 positions from where the crescent is sighted every month. And the people who sight the crescent are, trained um, individuals by, the Moroccan Navy. So they are trained to, quite a few of them are actually naval personnel. But the point is that, there's over 200 points. It's done every month. And the man who heads it is, one of the leading authorities in, Muslim astronomy. And his opinions are accepted by Muslim scholarship as well. Also, no individual makes it's not, a judge or an individual making the announcement. It's a government minister who makes it. And there are quite a few institutions in the UK that are connected to them. So they will never phone, they will not send an email, they will send a fax. As soon as the crescent is sighted, the information is collated and given to the Ministry of Religious Affairs. And the individual who signs the document is someone I have known since 1987. His name's Sidi Costas, and he's a graduate from Darul Hassaniya in Rabat. And the information is, the thing I was saying about certainty, that when they can't see it, they will not say that it can be seen in such and such a place. They will just say it's not seen. They will make that announcement. Where I was saying that the third, which because it's they're not very well organized, but they're getting there, because what happens is when they see the crescent, they'll take a picture. I'm talking about the UK Muslims there. They take a picture, they will upload it. We don't know. We need to know who's uploaded it, and it has to be more than two, ideally two. Yeah, we don't have a national body that makes the announcement. It is groups of scholars that have come together and formed organizations, and they will make an announcement. And that's where the problem is for me, and that's the reason why I personally go with Morocco. Does that make sense anyway? Yeah. But for Ramadan to begin, you must be certain that the crescent has been sighted. If it has not been sighted, then you complete 30 days. Yeah? And it's the same with, the month of Shawwal, ending Ramadan. Again, you need to be certain. Yeah. I have a joke that, it's a one-eyed Bedouin who goes out, sights the crescent in just, the Najd desert outside of Riyadh. And when, astronomers are telling us worldwide that is impossible for the crescent to be seen, he sights it. And the judge in Riyadh accepts the testimony. And it's really interesting how all, the sightings coincide with the projected um, end of the month by, the al-Qura calendar. But alhamdulillah, they have been shown, and there's so much work being done to show that, the al-Qura calendar um, is not something that, should be followed. The scholars in Saudi, they are categorical that, this sighting is for our country and our country only. No one else has to follow it. So if people, are basing it on that, then, from a fiqh point of view, just to argue that, Saudi is where the Haramain are, so we should follow it, that's not a solid argument. Yeah? Okay. Yes, Saifuddin.
What's the position of the madhab regarding high-powered telescopes, and the second is calculations?
The thing is, within the madhab, there is an opinion where calculations could be accepted, but that's the opinion of Imam Qurafi. Imam Shahabuddin Qurafi is, one of the mujtahids within the madhab, but he was also an astronomer. And he's categorical that, just as the the sun moves mathematically, is precise its movement. Imam Qurafi says that, the movements of the crescent, the moon, are mathematically precise. But again, it's not what the madhab accepts. The opinion is there. Imam Qurafi is no, minor scholar to just, lay aside. But the position of the school is that it has to be sighted by the physical eye. Because you see, when you have text, by text I mean that, you have clear-cut worded narrations from the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, and he's the lawgiver. We can't bring our opinion into it when it is so clear. So the words of the Rasul are that, sighted with your naked eye. Yeah. So when you see, it has to be seen with the eye. So if you use, a telescope, certain scholarship will permit it. I can't see the problem with it because it's just making it easier for you to look. But calculations, again, it's not something that our school leans towards. We have one school, one scholar, and no minor scholar who doesn't have a problem, but the school goes with them, sighting it and seeing it with the physical eye. The high-powered telescopes that, go beyond our horizon, no, they will not be accepted if you are talking about those. If those where the crescent is on the horizon and it just makes it easier to see with the telescope, those would be accepted. Does that help, Saifuddin?
So yeah, I just have some follow-up questions.
Yeah.
So the fact that you have to see it by eye, by your,
Yeah.
the naked eye, that wouldn't that be a very literal interpretation of the hadiths? Because obviously in that day and age they wouldn't have had the technology. So it's a literal translation to our sort of modern day times. So you could interpret it, if you're using a high-powered telescope, that you're seeing the screen with your eye. So what you see through the telescope, you're seeing it with your eye.
No, but is it because you see, all of us know, the crescent. I mean, the moon never disappears. Yeah, we all know that. With the telescope, we can see it any time. With the high pi of the ones, as long as the Earth is not, as long as it's there on the horizon. But the thing with the Prophet ﷺ saying that you have to see it with the naked eye, technology can help us, but we can't be slaves to technology. This is the thing that because some of our Qadi Abdul Wahid, Baghdadi, Qadi Ayad, and others, because there's this whole relying on technology too much, that we become slaves to it. No, we can use technology, maths and anything else, to tell us when it can be seen with the naked eye. But as I said, we can't change the law. Where the lawgiver has said that you see it with the eye, then that's we can use a telescope if it's on the horizon. But if maths is telling us it can't be seen with the naked eye, then no, it can't be.
Right.
Yeah, we can't. Our scholarship, I can't see it ever accepting, the well-known opinion being that you can go by calculations. I can't see it because what we have from the Rasul ﷺ will always trump the calculations. So the second best that we have is that we use the astronomers to tell us when the crescent can be seen with the naked eye. And there's an organization that works with the Greenwich Observatory. It's made up of muftis who have been English speaking, who are born and bred here and studied and come back here. It's called Wifaq al-Ulama. If you go to their website, they actually produce a monthly calendar, and it tells you, the days that the crescent can be, seen by the naked eye. And so far, they've been going for some time. Those calculations have been bang on. So technology can aid us. So technology can be an aid. It can't be, the what we rely on. Yeah. So we can use technology, but technology can't be the solution. The solution is what the Rasul ﷺ gave. Does that? Are you okay with that or not?
Yeah. Just so those hadiths, are they Habl Ahad?
The thing is, what you've got to understand is, if it comes to Aqeeda, we can set them aside because they're Khabr al-Ahad. When it comes to fiqh, if it is a Sahih hadith and it does not contradict the Quran and the Sunnah, there's amal on it. So majority, by the way, just a point of knowledge, majority of hadith, and I mean majority of hadith, are ahad. Yeah? Okay. Verses, Zachary, if you can read the translation from 214 to 217.
The wajibs of fasting are: 1. Making an intention in its preceding night. 2. Leaving sexual intercourse. 3. Leaving drinking fluids. 4. Leaving eating. 5. Avoiding intentional vomit. 6. Making substances reach the stomach from ear, eye, or nose, as it has come in some reports within the Maliki school. The time for the fast is from the rising of dawn until the setting of the sun, and having consciousness in the beginning of it is a precondition for it to be obligatory. And let the person who does not have consciousness make it up. Menstruation prevents one from fasting, and she makes up her wajib fasts and the fast in which the menstruation stopped and was lifted.
Okay. So here, this is Sidi Meyara's commentary on it, that, in these verses, the obligations of this fast, the conditions of the fast, the prohibitions of the fast, and the fara'id, or the wajib of the fast. So there are 5 wajibs, 5 fara'id of the fast. So the first of them is the intention, and the intention has to be from the night. Yeah, it's not enough to bring it forward at dawn time, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the wording of the hadith is no one has a fast who has not made the intention from the night. And it's not conditional that there's a correlation of the intention with the beginning of Fajr, because of the hardship attached to that. And what's understood from this, the verses of the poem, is that for the fast, the intention is general. It's not a daily intention. It's a general intention, and there is no difference in the intention between the month of fast of Ramadan and Ashura. That's the well-known position on intention. What it means is that by night people get confused. What does it mean that the intention is from the night? So when do we eat sahur?
Sometime before Fajr.
And time-wise, what is it? Is it night or day?
It's definitely nighttime, right?
Yeah. So that's what it means. Like, before Fajr kicks in, it's night. So when Fajr begins, is the beginning of the day. Yeah. So literally, when you have sahur, that's when you make the intention, and the intention is always from the first fast of the month. You make the intention that you are going to fast the month of Ramadan. That's all that's required. Yeah. As long as you don't fall ill, or you travel, or or with the women, they menstruate, then you see the continuity is cut, and then when they pick up again, they would have to make the intention anew to fast the rest days of Ramadan. Yeah. Okay. Are we okay with that? Yes, okay.
This is speaking about the wajib fast of Ramadan,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
if it was just a sunnah fast, let's say Mondays and Thursdays, do you have to make the intention in the preceding night?
No, again, it's a time of sahur. Yeah.
Yeah, there would be, I don't know if it's exists in the Maliki Fiqh, but other fiqhs allow um for sunnah fasts, you're allowed to make the intention during the day. So like after Fajr.
And
Is that
the thing is that, we don't have a concept of a sunnah fast. We have a concept of a wajib and a nafil fast. So there will be a nafil fast for which there's stress on. And the fast of Mondays and Thursdays, uh, it's not stressed by the mother.
so for those for the non-stressed fasting, do you have to follow the same conditions as in
Rule of
intention?
thumb is yes, but Ibn Habib is a very famous student of a student of Imam Malik, Andalusi. He says that you can even make the intention of Ramadan at the daytime. Sorry, not Ramadan, Ashura, from the daytime. So the opinion is there. But what happens is the madhab goes by rule of thumb, because majority of the fast that we fast is the month of Ramadan. So the intention is from the layl. For the rest, nafil fast, the same rule. But uh, before I got married, a lot of my fasts used to be 24-hour ones. So you would forget to eat suhoor. So it will be fine. Um, uh, but because you're up for Fajr, if you make it then, if you miss suhoor, um, that will be fine. There are opinions within the method that would allow it, but not the daytime. Daytime, if you're already up for sub anyway. Um, but again, Ibn Habib allows you on the daytime if you want. So,
Shukran.
you're welcome. Okay. The second wajib is leaving sexual intercourse. Now, what does this mean? It means, the emission of semen, uh, preseminal fluid from Fajr to sunset. This is what the Rasul ﷺ said. وَقْتَ طُلُوعِ فَجْرُهُ إِلَى الْغُرُوبِ. That, the time, its time is from, the beginning of Fajr to sunset. And it goes back to, the four faraids, which are going to follow, inshallah. As to, the emission of semen, this, if it comes out without any sexual arousal, then there is no, his fast is valid, and there is no qada for it. You don't make up the fast. Likewise with, preseminal fluid. If there is, no sexual arousal involved, there is nothing to pay. So what it means is that if there is sexual arousal, um, and there's a discharge of semen, it will invalidate the fast, and you will have to make up that fast. About sexual arousal, we will cover it further on in this section. The third wajib is leaving food and drink from the beginning of Fajr to Maghrib, Now, this is, self-evident. You just don't eat or drink from, once Fajr begins till there is sunset. Yeah. The fourth wajib is you don't bring vomit, voluntarily. Make yourself vomit from the beginning of Fajr to Maghrib. However, if it comes out and you are overwhelmed and you've not caused it, there's no other cause, then it has no bearing on the fast. Your fast is valid, and inshallah we will cover further on, swallowing a fly. It's something that's in the book. So Ibn Rushd quotes Imam Ibn al-Qasim saying that the obligatory and the nafil in regard to this are equal, the same. Yeah, are we okay with that one? The fifth condition, not condition, obligation, is that nothing should reach. You should leave anything. No, not leave. Nothing should, reach your stomach. What he's talking about is food and drink. So any kind of food, any kind of drink. Yeah. I'm not going to go through how 400 years ago they understood the digestive system, because it's totally it brings a smile to your face, but other than that, there's nothing that can be learned from it. The whole point is that nothing should reach your stomach from food or drink. Yeah. It will invalidate your fast if something does reach it. Now, from the ear, eyes, or nose, from the beginning of Fajr to sunset. If I can stop here, because I've had in the past, quite a few GPs and hospital consultants who've gone through this text with me. They categorically assured me that there's no way anything is going to get into your stomach from your ears. There's literally no way. That physiologically, unless your eardrum is has got a hole in it, then there is some chance. Yeah, from the eyes and nose, because they connect to the throat, they will so it will go into your throat. But from the ears, it's a bit difficult. Yeah. It's Sidi Meyara, stresses it. He says it's not enough just to leave food and drink, but you've got to leave anything, reaching the stomach. So what this means is that, nothing should pass the throat from food or drink. And thus, it won't reach the stomach. As to, something coming up through the back passage, I find that a bit difficult, but, it's there. If, however, God knows how, if it did reach your system, I don't know how gravity works the other way around, but it won't break your fast, because it has to go from the throat to the stomach. Before we go any further, this is from me. Um, you know, people who suffer from asthma, um, you know, if your asthma is severe, yeah, where you need to take puffs, you shouldn't be fasting at all, because you know you've got to take it on a regular basis. And by regular, I don't mean just one puff in a day. Quite a few times. Um, if you're one of those that sometimes you get breathless and you need to take a puff, that puff will not um, break your fast. Now, it's going down the throat though, isn't it? Yeah, right. Yes, but it's not going to your stomach, because our body is designed that when we breathe, it goes to our lungs. It doesn't go through us to our stomach. So um, it, it's been quite useful teaching the medical profession, because you learn so much from it. But again, that does not mean that people can smoke, because people these are genuine questions that have come, because I hold to this position that you can take uh, the inhaler, and they say, look, when we smoke, it goes to our lungs. It doesn't break our fast. No. One is, there's a need, there's a medical need. The other is just you need it. If people have to put, because people, because Ramzan always ends up in springtime or summertime, and pollen, people suffer from hay fever. Don't put drops, put gel. There are eye drops you can get, and you can get gel. The gel doesn't go straight to your throat. It actually stays within the eyes before. Yeah. But if you put anything down your throat, it will. Put it in your nose, it will go to your throat. So be careful about that. There is something that this text won't cover, but you will find it in our detailed texts. Is that the use of oil. I don't know if you've seen some Muslim communities. They oil their head, and the oil drips. There's so much oil. So because there's so much oil gone into your skin, you can actually taste it. So there's karaha in the overuse of oil. So if you do need to do it, put it on before you have the shower before Fajr, or put the product in your head at night, rather than um, after you've closed your fast. Okay, so those are the only 5 obligations of the fast. The intention from the night. I'm coming to your question, Sanal, in a minute. The intention from the night, leaving sexual intercourse, that's 2. Leaving food and drink, that's 3. Involuntary, making yourself vomit. Not making yourself vomit. So involuntary vomit is okay. The 5th, nothing reaching your stomach from food or drink. Going back to the ears, eyes, and nose, I don't know how you're going to get food from your ears, nose, and eyes into your stomach. Yeah. Okay. So now, like, the thing about perfume is that with us, with the school, it's makruh to put on any perfume while fasting. Um, People usually, use body sprays. I would recommend in Ramadan, don't use a spray, use a roll-on. And if you can get, that it doesn't have any perfume or has very little perfume, that would be fine. But keep in mind, it's not haram, it's makruh. And the perfume or scent that, our scholars are talking about, because they were oil-based, they were very strong. You'll still notice that, the men's scents are strong. Well, not as strong as the women's, but, historically, male scent was stronger than, female. It's the opposite now. Okay. You're welcome. With them, in the poem, we talked about, sanity. So these are, the conditions of obligation. Yeah. You must be Muslim. You must be sane. You must be baligh. You must be healthy. You must be resident. And you must be free from menstrual bleeding or post-birth bleeding. So if you're not Muslim, it's not an obligation upon you. If you're insane, it's not an obligation. If you're, not mature, it's not, an obligation. If you are not healthy, this healthy, because lifestyles have changed, and diabetes is found in most Muslim communities, wherever the world they are. I'm diabetic myself, so I know how it works. If you are on metformin, or glycoside, whichever, tablet form, and your blood sugar is in control, you know how it's in control, then you should fast. Because the advice that the NHS gives to GPs and diabetic nurses during Ramadan is that advise them not to fast. If you are going to take the advice of a health professional, my advice is that they must be practicing Muslims themselves. Yeah, because alhamdulillah, as I said, that I've got quite a few ex-students who are in that, and their advice is always you should fast, because fasting can actually cure diabetes. But again, it depends on what stage your diabetes is. So you adjust your medication. So you don't have it in the morning, you have it with the main meal. If you are on insulin, then you shouldn't fast. Because if you're on the tablet form, yes. If you're on insulin, it's too far gone. And also, people who suffer from autoimmune disease, because of how marriage has happened or happens within our community, there's a lot more autoimmune disease that Muslims have. So if you suffer from one of those, you shouldn't fast. Blood pressure, if you have to take regular medication, then you shouldn't fast. If it is, rule of thumb, if it's a disease that is long-term, has no cure, you're not under obligation to fast. As simple as that. Diabetes is one of those, but diabetes is a lifestyle illness. It's not, it's something that can be reversed. Um, about, bulugh and pubescent. If you do have children, um, gradually, introduce them, because, some of the fasts end up, just under 20 hours. So that's a bit too long for children. It's a bit too long for children. And if they are, adults, then there's no way that they shouldn't be fasting. They should be fasting. About, fasting and exams and all that. For, certain period of time, I was, the Muslim chaplain at one of the universities in Birmingham. And it's amazing how forward-thinking, universities are. That they actually, when they know that, they have a 5-year plan. So within those 5 years, if, the projected Ramadan is going to fall in the, what's it called, the exam period, they actually change the exams to the mornings. Because, you're less drained in the morning than you are in the evening. So, this thing that, some students of knowledge will, not students of knowledge, students will say, Sidi, can I not fast when I've got exams coming? It's good I was a chaplain. Otherwise, I wouldn't know. No, you can't. Your exams are in the morning. Okay. As to, someone losing consciousness, if they lose consciousness, and, especially people who suffer from, what's it called?
Epilepsy.
Say it again?
Epilepsy.
Epilepsy, yeah. Epilepsy, or also, multiple personality disorders. Because, they're on continuous medication, they shouldn't fast anyway. They shouldn't fast anyway. So any illness where, you have to take regular medication, you don't have to fast. If it is, a short-term illness where, you're going through a course of medication, then that's fine. You can, fast once the course is finished. But if it is, a lifelong medication, then you don't have to fast. As to what's it called? Paying compensation, the kafara. If it is an illness which is, you've got for life, the choice is yours to pay or not pay. The madhab does not oblige you. Because it's the same position as, when people reach a certain age, because they're too old, they don't have to fast. It's the same, they don't have to pay. If you do pay, it's better. Finally, before we got to stop for Maghrib, because Maghrib's begun in the UK. Women, when they are, the conditions where they are prohibited from fasting is because, the post-birth bleeding or, the monthly cycle. if she has begun the fast and then halfway through fasting begin, her thing period begins, she has to count that day as well, because yeah. Otherwise, the full days, because it was halfway past, broke, she will make the qada of that day and the rest of the days. As to the woman who's from post-birth bleeding, as soon as the bleeding stops, they should they're under obligation to fast. But again, their health will be taken into consideration. Okay. We'll pick up, after Maghrib, inshallah. We'll take 10 minutes, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. You there, Zakaria? Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi. This is a verse 218. Admit. Okay. 218. Wow. 218. It is makruh to touch a woman or allow thoughts of a sexual nature, that is, as long as one remains free of any emission of preseminal fluid, otherwise such things are forbidden. So we've covered the 5 obligations, the conditions, and what prohibits fasting. We move on to what is, makruh. And the first of these is, a continuous thought. Because what you'll notice is that, any of our actions, when we do something, be it good or bad, there's a trigger. And behind the trigger is always, a thought. And this is what Sidi Meyara radiallahu anhu, he says that, the fikr, from the fikr, from the thought, you're not, always safe from, the emission of preseminal fluid, or, being free from the emission of semen. So when you know that you are not, safe from the emission of semen, then that action becomes haram, because it's going to lead, while you're fasting, to the emission of semen. So Sidi Mayara says that, the ruling is in not, touching and thinking. So what you're looking at, you'll touch yourself, thoughts will go somewhere. It might be, lead to foreplay or playing with yourself. Just looking, then kissing, and then, body to body contact. You're saying that, when you're playing with yourself, you're not always safe from the emission of preseminal fluid or semen. So he says playing with yourself in itself, when you know that it will not, there's no, you're safe from preseminal fluid and semen, that action in itself is not haram while fasting. However, it is makruh. It is something that is reprehensible, and that is the mashhur position of it. So how he grades them, he grades them that, the least of these is, the thought. We were talking about the thought. So you're thinking about it. That's the least. Yeah. So then if we say that, least is number one, uh, uh, the thought, then, looking. It can be, looking at, the opposite sex, or, the things that what technology has done is it's removed this thing, because on our phones and on our tablets, laptops, we can access um, porn and all that. So that will be included in another, in looking. So that would be number two. Then after looking, number three would be kissing. Number three would be the physical touch. Yeah, the physical touch. And number five would be foreplay. Yeah, so that's how he grades them. So as I said, it's the trigger. The trigger is the thought. Yeah, the least of these, he says, is the thought, then the gaze, then the kiss, then the physical touch, then foreplay. And he says this is when you know that yourself, that you are not safe from semen, emission of semen or pre-seminal fluid, then that becomes haram. Yeah. And if there's doubt in you being safe from a discharge of semen or pre-seminal fluid, there's two positions, meaning yes or no. This is Sidi Khalil quoted, Sidi Meyara is quoting him from his Tawdih. He says that what's clear from most of these, that the prohibition is as a caution, yeah, for worship, because you are in a state of worship. So because you are in an act of worship, you shouldn't be doing anything that will lead to haram. And Imam Lakhmi, he says that you can be safe the first time, but that doesn't mean you'll be safe the next time. So Sidi Mayara, commenting on that, he says that the first aspect is that that you are safe. So that is makruh. Yeah. But doesn't mean that you are always going to be safe. That is why it's prohibited to go into this kind of territory. Yeah. And he says that if someone continues with this, that what will happen is that the male genital will become erect. There might be discharge of semen or pre-seminal fluid if they continue with that from the beginning. So again, he says the action goes back to that you are not safe from touching and thinking. Yes, Mustaqim. Your voice is off. Your sound's off.
Oh, sorry about that. I was just asking, pre-seminal fluid, it invalidates the fast?
No, it's makruh.
Okay.
Yeah. Pre-seminal fluid will invalidate your wudu, but it's makruh, but it doesn't break your fast. But semen will. Yeah. Again, to sum up, Sidi Meyara says that it's makruh, to touch yourself, and that you are not safe from the touch because it will lead to you thinking. Yeah. And if you continue thinking, there will be a discharge of seminal fluid. And he says it's all carried back to the touch and the thought. Yeah. That you might be safe from pre-seminal fluid or semen, but that would only be for the first time. It won't save you the second time. um the it shows you how in the Quran, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ask people where to go to when they're fasting? No, aqifuna fil masajid. Yeah, it's like you seclude yourself, so you take yourself away from uh, those temptations, because you've got free time on your hand, you're on your own. This is where this kind of action will happen. And if you're out of that scenario, there's less chance of it happening. So being in the right company, if you can't get to the mosque, being around people will stop you from uh, leading to this kind of activity. And again, the right kind of company rather than inshallah. Okay. Uh, the next two verses, Zachary, if you can read 219 and 220. This continues on with the makruhat.
And they have disliked tasting substances like from a cooking pot and useless talking. Being overcome by vomit or swallowing flies, gnats by mistake is forgiven.
Yeah, following, swallowing flies.
220 as well.
220, yes.
As is the dust of a laborer, for example, a wood carpenter, or of the road. Also forgiven is using a wood-toothed toothstick which is dry, likewise waking up in a state of greater ritual impurity from a pre-dawn penetration or ejaculation with pleasure.
Okay. So this carries on, in the categories of what is held to be reprehensible. So the people of the school hold it, makruh for the one fasting, to taste, the salt while cooking, or if the spices are right or whatever. Likewise, to taste honey. Um, People, uh, if you're not from that part of the world, we already know honey is sweet. Why do you need to taste honey? Yeah. But the thing is that, there are different types of honey. Yeah. Different types of honey. Um, if you go to fairs, in the Medina, in Tal al Kabir, uh, there's a small honey market. It's like, all the shops, they sell honey because, the people from outside of fairs, they bring their produce in. So tasting honey, also, chewing dates. Um, or chewing, food. Again, the chewing the dates or chewing food, this is for the child, for the babies. So baby food has done away with that. Or the grinders or the mixtures, they've made this opinion defunct. Likewise, blathering. Sidi Meyara defines blathering as you're talking a lot without any benefit at all. Yeah. So there's no benefit coming from it. Also, what's reprehensible is where you vomit, where you're overwhelmed. It's a makruh action, but it does not invalidate your fast. Likewise, swallowing a fly. All of these don't, actions don't negate Aqida. Also, if you work, for instance, in a bakery or where there's a lot of dust flying or in the street, all of that is, overlooked. As to, the dry miswak, just a point on dental hygiene before I go on to the dry. You should clean your teeth as usual, if not more, while you're fasting. This thing that the other madhabs have, that you shouldn't clean your teeth, or you shouldn't use a miswak after dhuhr or whatever. We don't have that. There's a Qadi Abdul Wahid Baghdadi. He has a work called al-Ma'una. I used to teach that work. It's one of my favorite works. It's an amazing work. When he comes to this point on dental hygiene, he said, here we know the intent of the lawgiver. So once we know the intention of the lawgiver, no other opinion will be accepted. So what's the intent of the lawgiver regarding dental hygiene? Is that the Prophet ﷺ said that if I did not hold it as a burden, I would make the miswak obligatory for each prayer. Yeah. So Qadi Abdul Wahid Baghdadi, he says this is without exception. There isn't any exception that's accepted for this rule, because the lawgiver's intent is known. So when you're fasting, you should, if you're home, use your toothbrush, use toothpaste. The electric toothbrushes are better than the normal ones. You should be use very little toothpaste. This thing of people will say, but isn't it going to leave a taste in my mouth? Yeah. But when was the last time you used a miswak? It leaves a taste in your mouth. So it's that question shouldn't be entertained. So the toothbrush does exactly what the miswak does. So you use it. If you're home, use it. As much as you can, especially after food. After you've eaten, make sure you use it, and it's not makruh to use it. It's actually the whole thing is that when you are fasting, this narration that people bring forward, that the smell of the person fasting. Do people know the rest of the narration?
I don't know if it's narrated for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but wasn't it with Musa, Musa alayhi salam, when he fasted the 30 days?
Yeah.
and then he wanted to remove the smell
Mhm.
from his mouth. So I think he had a bit of food, and so when he went to the maqam, another 10 days were given to him because of that. I don't know if that's correct or not. Wallahu a'lam.
There's a narration from the Rasul that the breath of the one fasting is pungent as scent, musk. Um, Again, as I said, that Qadi Abdul Wahab Baghdadi does not give us any exceptions. He says we know the intent. That narration, the best way to understand it, it was specific to the person that the Prophet was talking to. Well, the one that if I did not hold it as a obligation, I would uh, uh, obligate everyone to uh, uh, use a miswak for each prayer. That's arm. So the general rule is of fiqh is that the arm will override the specific. The general will override the specific. So the the general rule is just what you've got to understand is that when your breath smells, who are you hurting? Who are you injuring? Or who are you upsetting?
People around you.
People around you. And the sunnah of the Rasul is not to upset anyone's heart. That's his sunnah. Yeah. And if people turn around and say that this narration says yes, so it says yes, but you're injuring me. Because this is the thing that maslaha, the maslaha, the greater good is that you don't upset people. It's like are you allowed to go to the mosque if you've eaten garlic or onions? Are you allowed? No, you're not familiar with
Yes,
it.
I've heard of the hadith.
No, it's a general rule. Our madhab stops you from entering the mosque if you've eaten garlic or onions raw. Yeah.
But that's all of curries, isn't it?
Well, the curry is cooked. Yeah, curry as
Yep.
well. But if you uh, wash your, brush your teeth and all that, that does help. Um, the whole thing is that you see the madhab looks at our interaction with each other. Yeah, how aware we are of each other's feelings. It's like why the ghusl for Jummah is an obligation is our body odor shouldn't um, uh, hurt the one person standing next to me. Yeah, it my breath shouldn't injure the one standing next to me or the one that I am talking to. Yeah. So you're dealing with human beings before you are dealing with God. It's like my teacher, Allah, reward him from his own presence. He would say that creation is either a door to God or it's a barrier to God. Yeah. So if you're going to upset creation, how are you going to upset? How are you going to please God? And this is, the philosophy. The whole philosophy is that, if you stink, if your mouth stinks, keep away from the mosque. Yeah. If your body stinks, keep away from the mosque. Why? Because you are, going to upset people. So to turn round while you're fasting and say, look, it smells better than, musk. I'll take it with a yeah, it clashes with the very philosophy that the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam left us with. Yeah, the Rasul said, don't go to the mosque if your breath stinks. Yeah, don't go to the mosque if you stink. Yeah, excuse my French, but it needs to be said. So use this whole thing of it's only makruh. The makruh thing is that to use the dry stick Why? Because when you use a dry miswak, it breaks up, and there's more chance of it going down the throat, and it will make you vomit. Yeah. But the whole thing is, if you're fasting, clean your teeth. Whatever you need to floss it, brush it, all of it.
Can
Uh,
you use mouthwash?
yeah. There's nothing wrong because it's staying in your mouth.
Okay.
Yeah. It's better actually to use a brush first and then um,
Yep.
use a mouthwash. Uh, uh, Again, if you need to floss, usually people floss, last thing at night. Um, but so you're not fasting. But if you need to, if there's something stuck in your teeth from your suhoor, just make sure it comes out. If it does bleed, it has no ramifications on your fast, because you just use some mouthwash. That'll stop the bleeding, inshallah. Okay, you waking up from junub. If you've had sexual intercourse, before Fajr, um, it's makruh, but it's something that is permitted. Allah has categorically said in the Quran that uh, at night, from the very beginning of Fajr till from sunset, women are halal for you. Yeah, if you wake up and there's a toss, do I take the ghusl or do I eat sahur? You eat sahur. Yeah, and then take the ghusl afterwards. Okay. Now that's the end of what Sidi Meyara is going to give us of makruhat. So if anybody's got any uh, questions on the makruhat, it's a good time to ask.
Just so you're allowed to taste food whilst you're fasting, just a little taste, just to see like salt
If
and
you're cooking,
spices.
yeah, it's makruh. It's not
Makruh.
haram.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Zakaria.
Following that, is it a taste, then spit it out, or is it
Yes.
tasting?
No. You taste it and then you spit it out, and then wash your mouth out, so you don't leave any taste in it. Because what you've got to do is the whole thing of when I was talking about using a toothbrush is uh, be very uh, sure that you use very little, because most dentists will tell you that uh, just a small amount of toothpaste on top of the brush. So if it's an electric one, it's really very little. So uh, just make sure that you rinse your mouth out. If you've brushed your teeth, rinse it out proper. And if you've tasted food, rinse your mouth out proper. And the usual advice on rinsing the mouth is that you do not gargle. Even in normal times, we don't have this concept of when you rinse your mouth you gargle. No, rinsing the mouth as you put water in your mouth, swirl it from one cheek to the other, and then just spit it out. Inshallah.
That's also true for ghusl as well. You don't
Yeah,
gargle during
the
the ghusl.
same. Yeah. The mudmud has got nothing to do with putting water down your throat. It's to put water in your mouth and swirl it from one end of your uh, one end of the jaw to the other end of the jaw. That's the literal definition of mudmud. one end of the jaw to the other end of the jaw. That's it. It's a Hanafi thing. I don't know where they get it from about gargling. Someone was telling me that people find it difficult that I'm always picking on Hanafis. I'm actually not. I used to be Hanafi. I used to teach Hanafi fiqh. I'll do the classic racist thing. Majority of my friends are Hanafi. Anyway, let's get back to this, inshallah. 221, Zachary.
It is mandub to hasten the breaking of the fasts after sunset.
Oh, sorry.
And-
Sorry.
Oh, no, no.
221.
Yeah, sorry, that's my mistake. Asif. And one intention is enough for fasts which must be kept on successive days. But a new intention must be made if some preventative factor, i.e., sickness or menstruation, breaks the succession of fasts.
Okay. Now, this again, the translators made it very clear, self-explanatory. But Sidi Mayara says that it's an obligation that the fast is a continuous fast in Ramadan. So the continuous fast of the month of Ramadan is someone who is resident correctly. Yeah. So so we're talking about someone who is not sick, who is not traveling, and is resident. Yeah. And the fast is continuous, so the intention is one intention that is done from the beginning of the month. Yeah. Now, if that is negated, yeah, if the continuous fast is negated due to an illness or a journey or menstrual bleeding, then they will have to renew it. Yeah. And we're talking about the fast that is an obligation. So the fast of an oath or something, again the niyyah will be the same. But if it is broken, then it is has to be renewed and then continued after that. But one intention, I think I mentioned that when we began. This text is not going to mention this, but the recommendation is that you renew the intention every day. That's the mandub. So the wajib is that is one intention made that you are going to fast the month of Ramadan. That is enough. But the recommendation is that you renew the intention every day. So at every sahur, you renew it saying, I'm fasting this wajib fast. Inshallah. Okay. 222.
It is mandub to hasten the breaking of the fasts after sunset and lifting of the restrictions. Just like it is mandub to delay the pre-dawn meal at night.
Okay. Now, both of these are to do with certainty. So you need to be certain that the sun has set. Yeah. Once you're certain, then you break the fast straight away. Now, because the movement of the sun is mathematically precise, so you'll find is I can only share with you what my own experience is. Even the prayer timetables, the mosque ones, are never precise. And these apps that are on our phones, even they are not precise. What is precise is if the Met Office has an app. Yeah, the Met Office. There, I have found them to be more precise. There's always a minute out. I use this app called Salatuka. Yeah, and I've noticed that it will tell me that Maghrib is at 4 o'clock, while my app, the weather app, is telling me that Maghrib is at 4:01. So it's always to be sure. You've got to be certain that the sun has set. Just because the timetable or your app is telling you that the sun is set is not enough. I'm just telling you my own understanding of this, because in the deen we are always dealing with certainty. So we've got to be certain that the sun is set, and we've got to be certain that Fajr has begun. So my advice to you is, for a week, whatever app you're using, see how precise, if it's in sync with, in the UK, we've got, the what's it called, the meteorological office. They used to do the weather for, the BBC. They lost the contract, but they still have
Wasn't
a
the
weather
Met
app.
Office? That was the
Met Office, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
The Met Office. Because they're, I found that, theirs is always bang on. So try it for a week, see if you can see what I see. So, yes, Zachary.
Do they base it off sea level or just general location?
It's general location.
Aren't prayer times based on sea level? I don't know if that makes a difference.
I don't understand sea level. Tell me what does that mean.
Whether you're on sea level or above ground by a certain number of meters, it changes when or where you can, when you can see the sun.
Right.
So if you're a bit higher up, then you can see it a lot earlier, like a few minutes, not a lot earlier.
No, but
I don't know if that changes.
the Met Office, it's set according to your location.
And
I think it's the postcode.
are prayer times set to location and not sea
No.
level?
No, they're not. You'll notice that they're not as precise as the Met Office data is.
No, as in the prayer times in the deen, not the apps. Are they?
No, the deen is the prayer times are set according to the sun. Where the sun is. It's got
based
nothing
on
to do
sea
with
level?
sea level. Pardon?
Based on you at sea level, or it's not taken into consideration.
It's not taken into consideration. The sea level is never taken into consideration. It's always where the sun is, where you are.
Right.
Yeah. Depending on for Dhuhr, there's what's taken into consideration is the shadow of the object before Zawal. Yeah. So so when it's Zawal, there's no shadow apart from what was there before. And then Asr is one shadow plus the shadow before Zawal. And then for Maghrib is when the sun has set, where you are.
So if you're on like a tall mountain at the peak, let's say you've scaled a mountain, you wait until you can't see the sun, even if the people at the foot of the mountain can't see it and you can see it.
Yeah, you got to wait till you don't see it.
Okay.
Because it has to be set. Because if you are not following anyone, you are doing it yourself. You've got to go by yours.
Right.
There's an interesting masla, there's 4 people and they're traveling together and they can't agree on which way the Qibla is. So the 4 of them, do their own whatever they use to ascertain which way the Qibla is. They end up, for opposite directions. So they are under obligation to pray towards those directions. No, because you see, they arrived at a conclusion themselves. For them to not to follow someone else is they're going against what they have arrived at. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. About breaking the fast. Again, once you're certain that the sun is set, you open your fast. You don't delay it. There's an opinion within the Hanafi madhab that you delay it by 5 minutes just to be sure. Again, we don't have such an opinion. We just go by, you're certain it's set. You break your fast straight away. Yeah. And Sidi Meyara, again, he says, إِذَا تَحَقَّقَ الْغُرُوبِ. Yeah, so you've got to be sure, certain that the sun is set. And about delaying your before I go to the suhoor, just again advice. Again, each people, each culture has their own way of opening their fast. I've always found that the way that the Spanish Muslims do it, I've always found it bang on. They give you a couple of dates and a cup of mint tea. It's really nice. It's because people will drink cold water. It gives a shock to the system, and a cup of warm tea and dates, brilliant. It's you should just break your fast. Don't sit and have a meal. That's where the mistake is. South Asian people have so much fried food. It just goes against the whole philosophy of fasting. Okay. The sunnah about suhoor. Again, delay it. Delay it to again in Birmingham. We're quite lucky. We've got we had a project about 4 or 5 years ago called the Open Fajr project. So majority of our timetables are calculations. They're projected calculations. They're not precise data. And with the Open Fajr project is we had a couple of Muslims who bought an astrophysics camera, and they collected data for the whole month. And sorry, not for a whole month. They collected it for a whole year. So for every day, the camera would detect how far the horizon, the sun was. So for Birmingham, the suhoor thing is bang on. We had a lot of the first year that when they collated the data and presented it, there was a lot of opposition by Sunni mosques because it was done by a Shia group. And the next year, half of the city followed it, and then the following year, alhamdulillah, to date, the majority of the city follows it because it's not projected. It's actually physical data. It tells us how far from the horizon the sun is. This whole debate, if it should be 18 degrees, 15 degrees, 13 degrees. The Open Fajr project solved that one for us.
So what is it that they do?
What they did, Saifuddin, what they did was, when you get down, just Google, the Open Fajr project. You can read up on it. They used physics camera. It shot a laser beam to the horizon, and he measured how far the sun was from the horizon of the earth.
Right.
And so when Fajr proper kicks in.
And so this isn't clouded by, clouds and.
No, the laser goes through clouds. It's a laser beam.
Well, can't we do that with the moon then? Why could we?
I don't know. The thing is that when you get time, read up on the Fajr project. It solved the problem for us in Birmingham. I think they give some guideline to other cities of the UK. How many minutes to add or take away. But again, it's empirical evidence that it has rather than a calculation. So with that, they still add 15 minutes as a precaution before Fajr kicking in. The precaution thing is if you know that you are not going to stop when the time for Fajr kicks in, then the precaution should be followed. Yeah. Otherwise, you can take it, to the beginning of Fajr, as long as you're not going to go into Fajr.
Yeah.
And because it's an ibadah, sorry, Saifuddin, because it's an ibadah, it's better to be on the precautious side than risk the fast. Yes, Saifuddin, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, so my local mosque, the one closest to me, and you may know about them because they've got another mosque in Birmingham. They're called Gamkol Sharif.
Yeah.
And they actually have one set Fajr time that's the same throughout the whole month. It's just the same. It doesn't go up, it doesn't go down. So I don't know where they sort of base that on. It's not like the world is flat. It's it would change, wouldn't it? It should increase.
The thing is that, Saifuddin, the scholar that they follow, one of the 100 years ago, from modern day India, from a city called Bareilly, Maulana Ahmad Raza Khan Bareilly, he actually believed that the earth was flat, and he mathematically tried to prove it. And his work is in print. And you've got Bareilly Hanafi scholars who actually still hold to that, because that man said it's flat, so it's flat. I would advise the people in the UK to look into the Open Fajr project, see if it can be used in your city, and it's better than calculations. It's actually based on empirical evidence. So I can't comment on their timetable because I've always had problems with their timetable. If you look at their time for Zawal, this is in the summer, not in the winter. The Zawal time goes into they will say just illustration that Zawal begins at 12 o'clock and Dhuhr begins at 1 o'clock. So they've got an hour in which there's Zawal, which is I don't know how they do it, because Zawal only lasts maximum it's a couple of minutes. Okay. Suhoor, delay it, don't eat it too early. And the Prophet ﷺ would advise people to carry on eating when Sayyidina Bilal gave the adhan. Yeah? And stop when Sayyidina Maktoum gave the adhan. I can't remember the Sahabi's name. He was the blind, muezzin of the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. So he used to be told that, the Fajr is kicked in, and he would give the adhan. So the Prophet said that, stop eating when he gives the adhan, not when Bilal gives the adhan. So it's sunnah to, delay it, because, the fast is already in a long period. So if you do, it's a good thing. Again, never try to skip sahur. This is even if you can't eat anything, drink something. Never skip sahur, inshallah. And it's recommended to break your fast early, and delay your sahur, inshallah. Okay. Verse 223 to 225.
Whoever breaks a wajib fast must make it up and must add an expiation if it was broken during the days of Ramadan intentionally. One expiates if one breaks the fast intentionally with eating or drinking from one's mouth, or from reaching ejaculation or orgasm, even if it is reached from imaginative thought, or by abandoning the fast, or by abandoning what the fast is built upon, without making a common false assumption. It is permissible to break fasts due to fear of incurring harm, or while traveling a distance which allows one to shorten prayers.
Okay. Now, the first bit is, crystal clear that, if you break a fard fast, you have to make up for it. And it's an obligation to make it up. On this, there's no, ifs or buts on it. If you broke it out of forgetfulness, or, you got your calculations wrong, or you believed that, the sun had set, or that, Fajr hadn't begun. Yeah. And you got the calculations wrong, that the month hadn't begun, or that, that was the end of the month, and you broke it. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you broke it on purpose. It's wajib. Yeah. It doesn't matter how you broke it. You will have to do, a qada of it. You'll have to make it up. Now, certain categories, they're obliged to break it. Yeah. And they will break it on purpose, like, someone who is ill, and there is fear that he will kill himself, that, fear of death, or that, he's permitted to break his fast. That is if they're on a journey. Or it is recommended to break the fast. Now, this is, when they're a mujahid, fighting in the way of God. Now, as to someone you think that if I don't break my fast, I'm going to, become weak, I'm going to lose my strength. This is, he's prohibited. It's haram for him to break the fast, and there is no, problem with that at all. Someone who breaks it out of ignorance, or, where they are overwhelmed, someone pours food or drink down their throat while sleeping, or it doesn't matter if they if they do it obediently or they are compelled to. It's like what has happened or happening with the Uyghurs in China. Now, likewise, someone breaking his fast due to sexual intercourse or the emission of semen, or someone in the daytime removing his intention that he's not fasting anymore, or by eating or drinking. And in these two, it makes no difference if the food reaches the throat or the stomach. All of these, they would have to. The last two, they would have to make up the fast. What's included in the obligatory fasts, other than the fast of Ramadan, is the fast when someone takes an oath that if he does this, or if this comes to happen, he will fast. Now, if he begins the fast of an oath and then breaks it, he has to make up that fast. Okay. Yes.
Is the fast of an oath consecutive?
Of
So
the oath?
Yeah, it has to be done in succession, 3 days in succession.
All of our fasts are in succession. If they are, other than one, all of them are in succession. As to the addition of recompense, the kafara is on top of the fast. So you have to make up the fast, and the kafara is on top of that. So the kafara is on someone who breaks it on purpose and with intent in Ramadan or other than Ramadan, by eating or drinking by the mouth. And they do it with full choice, without being compelled, or they have a discharge of semen on purpose, or sexual intercourse or foreplay, and of thinking, or on purpose they reject what the fast is built on, meaning the intention. And their excuse has to be unacceptable. It's like I'll leave you some of what Sidi Mayara gives of accept far-fetched and acceptable excuses. The rule of thumb is, if you can't, your story, if you can convince yourself, yeah, if you can convince yourself, that's an acceptable excuse. But when you can't even convince yourself, how are you going to convince God? As to the kafara is only for Ramadan, not for fasts outside of Ramadan. So here's an acceptable excuse. So someone breaks their fast out of forgetfulness, or a woman, her bleeding stops before Fajr, and she doesn't do the ghusl till after Fajr kicks in. Or someone, has suhoor so close to Fajr. Yeah, it's too close that, Fajr kicks in. Or, they journey, they do a journey, but uh, the distance of the journey is less than that of in which prayer can be shortened. Or they see the crescent of Shawwal in the daytime and they break their fast. These there is no kafara for any of these categories. They will just make up their fast because they are acceptable excuses. Now these are far-fetched. So halal, sorry, they saw as their testimony wasn't accepted. So because they saw the crescent, they had the obligation to fast. But because the testimony wasn't accepted, they broke the fast. They broke their fast because they thought that they were going to get a temperature, a fever. Or the woman thought that, she was going to get a menstruation today, so she didn't fast. And they came across, this narration. They heard this hadith that, you know what hijama is? Hijama. So,
Cupping.
what's it called?
Cupping.
Cupping. Okay. So the hadith is that, the cupper and the one having the cupping done, their fast is broken. So they broke their fast. Yeah. Or they came across that, the slanderer has no fast. He says these interpretations are not accepted, and every one of them will have to give compensation. Is that the word compensation? No.
For kafara,
Yeah, what's the word for kafara?
expiate.
Expiation. They would have to expiate. As for someone, who is forced to eat and drink, they don't have to expiate for anything. Someone who is ignorant, he does it out of ignorance, they have nothing. There is no expiation for anything. Now, these would be accepted from someone, a new Muslim, who doesn't know much about Islam. So he breaks his fast, eats and drinks, has sexual intercourse. Because they are new to Islam, they will not have to give any expiation at all. They will only have to make up the fast. But if it was someone who was not new to Islam, they would have to. Now, as to the traveler, the traveler is permitted to break the fast if there is some kind of harm attached to him by fasting, or he fears that there will be harm if he continues on the journey fasting. So the journey that we're looking at is, 48 miles, or 80 mile radius, 80 kilometers. So it has to be a journey in which 48 miles or 80 kilometers, permitted journey. So not a journey in which they're going to commit a sin. They will be permitted to break their fast. So you're looking at, there's fear of, the harm continuing, or the harm increasing, or recovery being delayed um, from that. Or there is fear that, because of the intensity, the difficulty of the journey, they will become weak from the illness. In these, they are, allowed to break their fast, because Allah's deen is ease. Someone who fears that they will be robbed, or that the effect of the fast will be very difficult on them, then fasting becomes haram for them at that time, and it's an obligation upon them that they break their break their fast. Now this is Imam Malik talking about the permissibility of breaking the fast when on a journey. This is from the Mudawwana al-Kubra. Imam Malik says someone who travels, and the travel is a permitted travel, and the distances in which they shorten their prayer, it is up to them. So they have a choice now to break the fast if they want. Yeah. But then Imam Malik says his preference is that they do fast. Yeah? His preference is that they do fast. In the Mukhtasar, you find that if they come across a town where they make the intention to stay 2 days in that, then they can break the fast. However, if they make the intention to stay there for 4 days, then it is necessary for them to fast completely. Yeah. Now, Sidi Meyara gives the following 3 conditions for people traveling, and the permissibility of breaking the fast. So the first of them is that the journey has to be one in which the journey is a permitted journey and it's long, meaning 80 kilometers or more, 50 miles or more. And the journey is in one go. You're not, breaking your journey. And it's not permitted for them to break the fast in other than it, except in a need. If they do break it, then they will have to make up the fast, like what was covered before. The second condition is that when they begin the journey is before Fajr. Yeah. So it's before Fajr, and if Fajr kicks in before they begin the journey, then they don't break the fast. Yeah, they don't break the fast before they begin, and neither after it in that day. However, if they begin the journey after Fajr, then they can, if there is a need, meaning break the fast if there's a need. Now, if they break the fast before they leave to begin the journey, that breaking of the fast will be an act, will be considered, disbelief. That's what's said in the Mukhtasar. And if they break the fast after they set out, then they will only make the fast up like it was in the Mudawwana. And if they begin the journey before Fajr kicks in, then it's up to them to break it or not. The third condition is that they don't begin the fast in their journey, and if they do, then they break it for a reason, for an accepted لغير العذر, without a need, then they would have to make it up and do kafara. Is that confusing or not? Or is it clear? It's confusing? Okay. Look, best way to understand it is that if you begin your journey before Fajr kicks in, so you've begun your journey, the journey is begun, you don't have to fast. Yeah? Now, that's the first scenario. The second is if you begin the journey after Fajr has kicked in, then you are under obligation to fast. Yeah? Because Fajr has already kicked in, the day has begun. So you are still resident, so you are under obligation to fast. Yeah? That's the simple way of looking at it. In our context, is if you know that you are going to begin the journey during the day, you're under obligation to fast that day. Yeah? Once you begin your journey, if it becomes difficult for you to cope with the fast, then you break it. But your journey has to be minimum in miles, 48 miles, which is 50 English miles, and 80 plus kilometers. Yeah. So if you begin your journey before Fajr, you don't have to fast. If you begin your journey after Fajr, you are under obligation to fast. And while you are traveling, the choice is yours. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he talks about it in the Quran, Allah says, وَإِن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. Yeah? That if you fast, it would be better for you. And that's why Imam Malik radiallahu anh says that, he prefers it if people fast. Nowadays, the problem arises is that, what do you do when, your journey is more than 8 hours? And, when do you break your fast? When does, the day end? For instance, you begin in the UK, and then you fly, for instance, to Bangladesh. Saifuddin, how many hours is the journey? Is it 8 hours?
I think it's 5.
5?
I think it's 5.
Huh?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's 5 hours.
Yeah, it can't be 5 hours. It's 8 hours to Pakistan.
Yeah, I might be completely wrong.
Yeah. So what happens is that
6 hours.
they go by, when it lands, they break their fast.
Yeah, Sheikh is 6 hours ahead.
6?
Yeah,
Can't be.
According to Google. 6 hours.
I think I ain't gonna agree on that. I know it's 8 hours to Pakistan. But the thing is, it's like, if the airplane is stopping, fair enough. But you have a choice. If it's difficult, you can break it. I usually don't travel, but sometimes I have traveled to Morocco in Ramadan, and you don't have to break your fast at all. When you land, um, uh, it's still not Maghrib. There you go, 9 hours. There you go, Tahmiz. 9 hours.
I think Saif was saying the time difference.
Oh, the time difference.
Yeah.
No, Saifuddin, I was talking about, how long the journey takes.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Not the time difference. It's like, when the scenario I'm talking about is you begin your fast in this country. Yeah. You get on the plane. When you're going to break your fast now? When you get to Bangladesh, or when the sun sets? Now, which country's sunset are we going to go by? You see the problem?
Your destination. Wouldn't it be your destination?
Right.
Sunset?
So you've got to wait till, the sun sets in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Okay. But are we okay with the traveling? Yeah. On the travel, you have if it's, an acceptable journey and a permitted journey is that, the distance traveled has to be 80 kilometers or more, 50 English miles in one go. And you have the choice to break the fast if it becomes difficult. That's if you begin the fast. But if you begin the journey before Fajr kicks in, you don't have to fast. It's up to you if you want to fast or not. Yes, Saifuddin.
I don't know if this has been discussed. I was away from my desk for about half an hour earlier, which is that in some locations the sun doesn't set or it doesn't rise. I don't know if that's something that has all been discussed.
It's not discussed. I can share with you what the opinion on that is. It's not of our school. It's what the accepted opinion has become. People in Norway and the Scandinavian countries.
Yeah.
There are two opinions, and I'll tell you which opinion I go with. One opinion is that they should go with the timetable of Makkah. Yeah, that's one. The second opinion is that actually there's three. I remember there's three. Yeah. The second opinion is that actually there's four now. We'll get there. So the first one, they go by the timetable of Makkah. Second opinion is that they go by the timetable of the nearest Muslim country. Yeah, that's two. The third opinion is that they go by, what was it? How long normally, the fast would be. Do you understand what I mean by that?
I think some places it doesn't. In the whole year there is no set.
No. It's not whole year. It's always 6 months. 6 months there's darkness, and 6 months there's a day. It's at the north, near the northern countries.
At the pole, I think if you're at the pole, you'll have 6 months of complete lights.
Yeah. So follow the timetable of Makkah, follow the nearest Muslim country, work out, on a normal, the nearest normal country, what, the average fast would be. Yeah. The fourth opinion is that they calculate themselves what, a normal day would be. But the third one is not as sound as the other three.
So, sorry, what was the fourth one again?
The fourth one was that, they work out, the Muslims of that country work out what, the average day would be normally, sunrise and sunset. That's a bit iffy one. But, the Makkah one is well known. The nearest Muslim country one is well known. And then, the nearest, country which has, normal sunset and sunrise, they go by that. I personally go with the third one. The nearest Muslim, not Muslim, but nearest normal country which has, normal time, sunsets and sun. They choose that. Yes, okay.
For the third one, for our nearest country with a normal
Yeah.
rise and side, it will be like it won't be like, it will be like a scale. It won't be like a
No. Yeah, it's a scale.
yeah. So you'll reach a country where the sun rises and sets. Do you follow that? Like after an hour.
No,
Or you,
not that. It's like, normal. It's like, look, Scandinavia.
right.
Yeah. Look at, the Scandinavian countries. That's where the problem in,
Yeah.
Northern Europe is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they got to a normal country like Germany,
Right.
which has, normal days, so they would choose that. There is an Azhari opinion where, the opinion from Azhar is that, they would calculate, how long a normal day is and just fast for those, for instance, 8-hour day. So they would fast for 8 hours. So those opinions are there. There isn't, one opinion for, because it's, something new. That's why, there are new, so many opinions.
Right.
So-
It's subjective. Sorry, say.
No, it is subjective, because the thing is that, the first one is, from a fiqh point of view, is totally baseless. Because the thing is, if we are going to follow the timetable for fasting for Mecca, then why not follow the timetable for the prayers for Mecca as well, for the whole year round? From a fiqh point of view, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. The second one, where, you choose the nearest Muslim country, it's very similar to the third one, where, it doesn't make, the length of the day has nothing to do with, the country being Muslim or non-Muslim. Yeah. So that's why my own take is, the nearest normal country which has normal seasons. The Azhari one, where opinion, they just fast, for an 8-hour day or 11-hour day. They just fix the time of the day. I don't know. I'm not convinced by it. It's like, from something needs to make sense. Yeah. Just arbitrarily saying that, the day is this period, so we're just going to fast for this many hours, to me doesn't make that much of a sense. But, the nearest normal country that has normal seasons, I think that one sits with me better from a fiqh point of view. Does that make sense then, Saifuddin?
Yeah, it does. I was just thinking, so you know how the sick or the traveler are excused from fasting. Would this
the
verse
traveller,
not apply? Would this verse not apply to those who are unable to fast in
The
those
thing is that,
regions?
if you bring usul in, there is a way of excusing them, but it's not good fiqh.
Meaning they would still pay the 60. You need to feed 60 people. It wouldn't be just that they would.
Expiation. No,
Yeah,
no, there's no reason for them to pay expiation because they are, healthy and they can physically fast.
but they can't determine the time. So instead of that,
No,
they
but the
just
thing
pay
is
60
that
people.
then, if they can't, determine the time from, a fiqh or suli point of view, they're not under obligation. But then, if you go down that line, then, they don't have to pray either because the times of prayer don't kick in. Do you see how slippery the slope is?
Yeah.
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 So if you're going to pay expiation for fasting, can't I pay expiation for not praying?
There's no expiation for praying, is there?
No, I'm just being devil's advocate now.
Yeah. I get where you're coming from. That you
Yeah.
can't really determine the prayer time in those countries. So
Yeah, so you can't determine them. So are they under obligation to pray?
but is there any textual basis for that? Or
No,
there
that's
isn't?
what I'm saying. No, from an usul point of view, it's solid footing because the thing is, if the time doesn't kick in, the prayer doesn't kick in. So if the time of day, you see, the times of prayer are governed by the time, the rotation of the earth around the sun. So the times are not kicking in. Yeah. So from an usuli point of view, they're not under obligation. So if we're going to do that for the prayers, Ramadan's not kicking in, so why do they have to fast?
Yeah.
Just travel pole to pole and never fast, never pray. Again. 6 months there, 6 months there.
Fiqh of the traveler. It's like, some people want to, do qasr and join together. Yeah. Become a traveler. Never settle. Inshallah. Anyway, let's carry on. 226.
Are we not way past the time? Just
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Bloody hell.
Sorry.
Anyway, that's what happens when you start something. Okay. We'll pick up next week, inshallah, from 226.
Inshallah.
Anyway, سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
Alaikum salam.